Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Jeni Ji Cousins, and this is Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. Now, in order to catch these episodes, you're going to have to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'm on other platforms as it is, which will be listed, and you can find it out there. Believe me, you will find it. So you can follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Enter my name. I'm not going to go on all of the handles I have. There's a lot of them. You'll find me. So make sure you subscribe in order to get these shows and exciting interviews. Now, today's show, I am so honored and deeply grateful. And you're all going to see why if you don't already know who this woman is. Extraordinary woman, I should say. I'm very grateful to have Rainey Robinson again on my show. Now, Rainey, she has been on the hit television show, Dogs Most Wanted, Dog and Beth Fight of Their Lives, Dog and Beth on the Hunt. And you can also catch Rainey's podcasts. Here's the Backstory. I'll have her information below, and you could easily find her anyways on social media for those of you who don't know her, which I'd be shocked if you don't. So now, thank you, Rainey. As I mentioned, I'm so grateful to have you on here. It's such a pleasure, and I have so much gratitude for you and love for you. You're an incredible woman.
Thank you so much. I'm honored at the invite at all. And I just adore you. So I jumped at the chance when, you asked. I'm like, yes, book me, book me. Please.
Well, thank you. You're so kind. You're so kind. And you're very honest. You guys are going to see how honest and genuine and what an amazing heart Rainey has for those of you who are not familiar. So now I'm going to ask Rainey a lot of different questions, as you are going to see. And I wanted to talk about your move. Now, you have moved, first of all.
Yes, I
Right?
lived in California for about 60 years, just shy of 60 years. And I cashed out and moved to the beautiful state of Missouri.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. How are you enjoying Missouri? Like, because that's quite a change, right?
It is a change. I really haven't missed anything in California at all. I started just a couple days ago going, I do kind of miss a redwood tree here and there, but really nothing. It is so beautiful, so peaceful, so serene here, and people are nice, and they, are just really kind. It's you don't really run into anyone that's hostile.
Yeah. And sometimes with that change, it literally changes everything.
Yeah, sure
Opens
does.
things up for new doors of opportunities as well, and it expands. Because I saw
Yeah,
you on that tractor.
my tractor, it's hilarious. I get out there in my cowboy boots and my dress, and I put eyelashes on it. So the kids walk by and they go, "Oh my gosh, there's the eyelashes on that." And I go, "Yeah, it drives better." Cute.
I know, I love it. I saw that and I'm like, oh my God, that's so you. That is so you, right?
Oh, if you had told me 4 years ago I'd be riding one of those, I'd have never believed it.
So now you have a podcast as well. You have a true
I
crime
do.
podcast. Can you explain what that is about?
Yeah, so it's just really kind of an extension of I did Savage Words for a long time, and then so last year I kind of created something that was called "Here's the Backstory," and it's funny because Beth used to say this to me all the time, and I go, "Well, why are we doing this?" She goes, "I don't have time to tell you the backstory." Like, oh, well, you better make time for it because I need to know what I'm doing. So I called it Here's the Backstory. But what I really like to do is I like to highlight people, of just their everyday events. A lot are crime victims. A lot are, sexual assault victims, and kind of just getting through, the judicial process. I picked up some cases of cold cases that I have one in Oklahoma that I've been working on with a woman that has stood there for 35 years trying to get this case done. I picked up a sweet girl out of Arizona that for 30 years she's been trying to get even a charge for her mother's murder. And so it's really providing people a platform to be able to just speak and be heard and be understood. And I just think that that's just such a valuable key to the healing process, that they're not invisible, that, yeah, what happened to you was really crappy. It really was. What can we do with it?
Yeah. Because the truth always comes out one way or the other.
Definitely.
The truth is exposed. And even with current events, even worldwide, more truth has been exposed about certain things. And nobody can run from things. Even the people who have, like hurt somebody, and here you are reaching out your heart to try to help that person.
Listen, I think that it's a devastating thing to, we grew up with authority. So we have authorities. And when this happens, you go to this person. And when this happens, you go to this entity. And when, a lot of people don't get the acknowledgement that something has happened, and what are they going to do with that information? When they are ignored, it's just really hard. It's very hard for them. So, and what's so beautiful is that every single time I do uh one of these video podcasts, they get encircled with a whole bunch of people that love them, understand. Most of them have similar situations that they've gone through. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Not the crime itself and not the victimization, but these are not victims. These are people that had trauma inflicted on them. And now we stand and we hold their hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes when somebody just hears a story about something, they might be holding back a lot themselves, and they're going to be like, wow, I just heard this, interview that Rainey did, and I like their story. Maybe I should reach out to that person and help them, or, the help gets shared around and such like that.
I agree. And I just think that it's a really beautiful thing. Like we could sit and split hairs all day long about this one did it and try to prove it in court and all of that stuff. You can do all of that stuff, but no one will ever see anything like exactly like you do.
Mm.
And no one will tell your story except you. And because it happened to you. So you put the verbs and the adjectives and the sentences together, and we're going to sit and listen to it.
Yeah. Because everybody can relate to each other. When
Definitely.
there's a story like that, somebody could be sitting back and saying, I get it. I can relate. I don't have anybody to talk to and share my story, whatever it is.
Definitely.
Right. And then it
Definitely.
opens up exactly that healing circle, and it expands.
Yes.
And the more people that heal, the more peace on earth it comes. It spreads.
I agree 1,000,000%. And then there are people that listen to those stories and then think things that they've been harboring for 30, 40 years, they gathered the courage to be able to say it. And even in some of the exchanges that I've had, even like offline with people that I encourage them, I'll stand right there with you. Nobody's going to say anything to you. No one's going to do anything to you. And if they do, I want to know. And and then we'll solve it like that. But yeah, and that's kind of a beautiful thing. And when I say to people, when you have enough courage and enough strength that you want to do this, I'm your girl.
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes somebody just needs a hug, or they
Yeah,
just need to say, you know what, you're going to be okay. And what I find too is I'm listening.
yeah,
I'm listening.
yeah.
Somebody just needs that person just to vent to and get whatever it is they've been through, that traumatizing time, off of their chest. And especially when they're like, I can talk to that person because they get it. They get it. They've been there, or they're working with this.
I
That's
agree.
powerful.
Yeah, and sometimes they have never articulated it. So they don't have the words or didn't have the words. When we're a lot younger, we don't have the vocabulary that we have today. And so when they recount what has gone through, they get to now hear themselves say those things. So they put actions to those. And then it's just a beautiful beginning process. It really is.
So if, because you work with missing people as well, of course, right?
Yes.
How long, I know every state, of course, and country is different, but how long should you wait realistically if somebody went missing? Somebody didn't come home from school, let's say, or or whatever, whoever it is.
Well, listen, yes, and you're right. Every state is a little bit different. And there are some states that won't even take anything. They'll just consider, if the kid is a teenager, they'll just consider it a runaway. Adults are very hard because, you can self-disappear and it's not illegal. And that's so a lot of people combat that. And some people vanish in plain view, and they are not seen again. There's a woman here in Joplin, Missouri, that came up missing 3 years ago. Not even a sign, nothing, vanished, like just vanished. And those can be really, really tough, really tough. And so, but if you have a circle of people, no, listen, I would never shut up. I
Yeah.
would just, and listen, I had a mother on the phone a couple of years ago, that her daughter was missing, and her daughter was like 16 years old, very rebellious, and kind of going through that. And so I told the mother, keep me on the phone, keep me on the phone, and she did, and she's flying through the streets, and the daughter was sighted at like a Walgreens, and I go, pull into the parking lot. She pulled into the parking lot, and I go in. She goes, she went in, and I said, you're gonna do it's called it's like an atom shutdown. And so that's where they lock the front doors and no one can leave the building, because there's a child that's yeah, that's missing, that's in there. And sure enough, she got her. She got her. She was right out the back, and the police surrounded her and got her home. So yeah, I'm that girl too. I'll sit on the phone with you. Yeah,
Mm. And that would really, really, really make a difference.
yeah,
Really make a difference, and they'd feel it. Like somebody can really feel it when somebody's being genuine as well, one way or
yeah,
another,
yeah.
and especially with your energy and everything about you, people would feel comfortable. I would say
They
that
do.
people would feel
They do.
comfortable and drawn to
Yeah.
you.
And I've heard that before, that it's so, it's comforting talking to you, or I make it easy, just like you, just like we're having a conversation right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is. And you have to meet people where they stand. You have to. You
Yeah.
can be anything you design, you design yourself to be, but you're not going to communicate that unless you meet them where they are. And some of them are broken, and some of them are elated, and some of them are sad, and some of them are angry. And you have to meet them exactly where they stand.
Mm. So if somebody went missing, and I mean, some people put up posters and
Yeah.
notifications. What should be on that, like that post, right?
So one of my pet peeves is that they'll put a city or a county and they don't put the state. And there's a lot of counties like Lake County, for example. Well, there's a Lake County in Illinois, and there's one in Michigan, and there's one
Mm.
in California. So be broader than your living room. And sometimes that's very hard for people to think. They can't think, but you need to expand it, especially having internet, where things do go, it's called the World Wide Web on
Yeah.
purpose. And so
Yeah.
it will be everywhere. So one of my pet peeves is, not precisely saying where, you know, Web City, Missouri, Jasper County. So be very specific. Also, what were they doing? What were they doing at the time? Were they walking, home from school? Were they at the library? Did you let them go to the mall? What were the, circumstances? And I think that that's really hard. Of course, you'll get police departments that don't want to share that information. And the hard thing is that you can't ask the public for help and not provide help
Yeah.
for them to help you. Help
Yeah.
me, help you, help me, help you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd all love to get a conviction, but I think the most important part is getting resolution for whether they're a missing person or a murdered or Jane or John Doe, or that's what the goal is.
Is there like, do you find that with let's say all the missing people, is there more of a certain age group, like, or is it?
No, it's a
Yeah.
really literally all over the map. They do have like a silver alerts. So if someone wanders away from like a nursing home or they're elderly or they have, they're compromised in some way. So that's nice to see. There's some states, with the whole Amber Alert thing, it has a lot of holes in it.
Yeah.
I think it was I think it was the state of Michigan that wouldn't issue an Amber Alert if the abduction didn't occur in a car. So they had to, yeah. So they had to issue it with a license plate. I'm like, well, what if they were abducted out of a hospital or a motel or the mall?
Yeah. Anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere. And so, there's some things that really need to kind of be readdressed and cleaned up. But no, I think I think the statistics are there's over 500,000, 750,000 people that are reported missing every single year, and the majority of them are found.
Yeah.
And
Thank goodness. Yeah.
yeah, thank goodness. And I think given that teenagers are a smaller group of that 750,000, I would probably say that the majority are adults. And it's hard, it's hard to find someone that doesn't want to be found.
Yes. Yeah. If somebody really wants to go missing, many years ago, I used to work at a law firm. I used to do skip tracing and locating
Mhm.
people. And
Yeah.
they were trying to locate this guy for many years. I found him within an hour.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I know all the back tricks, right?
Give her
And
a raise.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. So yeah, there's different ways. Have you found that? I mean, you worked on so many different cases and bounty hunting and everything like that. We're going to talk about bounty hunting too. Is there like more of a difficult case? Like there's, like missing and trafficking and so on and so on. Like, do you have like something that you're like, this has been really difficult? Is
Oh,
something really stood
trafficking.
out? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say trafficking, hands down, is probably the most difficult.
Yeah.
It's also one of the most dangerous to do, because there's a whole bunch of people that make a whole bunch of money and they don't want you in the way. And, your life is valueless to them. And so I would say trafficking. When I did bail in Hawaii, there was what was called the Emerald Triangle, and it would go from Honolulu to San Francisco to LA to Honolulu to San Francisco and LA, and it would just be on this little, so by the time you'd post a bond, or that person was on the next plane, they were gone. So I would tend to never write a bond for a pimp. First of
Yeah.
all, that was, a
Yeah. Yeah.
$500,000 bond,
Yeah.
and I would rarely ever do it for prostitution unless that person lived on the island. And so, because they're not going to show up to court, they're not. And good luck trying to find them because they just change their name. In fact, the name they gave you is probably not even real either. So they're just notoriously difficult cases to find. And they are just in this circuit that has a bunch of people that protect them and allow them to run in that circuit. And so, yeah, those are tough. Those are really tough. I feel
Yeah.
my heart breaks for, mothers and fathers that try to get their kids out of
Yeah.
that a circle. Yeah. And I mean, I worked on a case many years ago where the girl had been trafficked for about 5 years, and they found her, and they found her in Mexico. And the parents hired someone to go in and snatch her, bring her back to the US. And about 2 months later, she left and went back to the lifestyle
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she didn't know, so that's heartbreaking as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard that. Like I've heard that I've had clients and such that are in that industry, like sex industry and such like that. And it's really heartbreaking, like really, really heartbreaking, to really hear their stories and such like that. And you
Yeah.
can guide them and counsel them and all that kind of stuff. And of course they're going to do what they're going to want to do anyways,
Oh, yeah.
regardless of what. So it just shows you how much control is given on the side of, the perpetrator, the person, that the pimp or whoever it is. um,
Absolutely.
what would you say, like if somebody said to you, what would be some of the signs that somebody is being trafficked?
Well, there's all kinds of different things that they do. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll use them as door-to-door salespeople.
Oh my God.
And, oh yeah, or
Oh,
they're in the malls, or they're doing other things that they wouldn't have a high reporting, like in fact, I did this really interesting podcast with a gentleman whose name, he goes by Badass Survivor, and he is that. He is all of that. And he was trafficked at 15, and he was lured by two 19-year-old females. And yeah, and this was and I really appreciated his story because it's something that a lot of people don't really think of, that that a man could, a young boy or a man couldn't be trafficked, but they are. And he was taken out of Missouri and ultimately ended up, and they moved him all around the United States. And it started very innocuously. Hey, get in the van. We're gonna, smoke a joint, and everything's gonna be fine. Blah, blah. And then he was gone, gone. Mother didn't know where he was. They took his phone, gave him another identity. They drugged him,
yeah.
and this it just stayed on. It stayed on for 5 years. And then when he turned of age and became valueless, because they are valueless when they start to
Yeah.
get older. Uh, on their circuit, they pushed him out of a moving van up in Colorado. And this kid didn't know where he was, didn't know what state he was in. And so finally, he was in the hospital. An angel pulled over to the side of the road, picked him up, said, "Oh my God, you've got all this road rash. Let me just take you to the hospital." So she took him over to the hospital. And ironically, he still talks to her today, which is beautiful. And so he gave a name. He gave the name that
Wow.
the traffickers gave him. And then the police got wind of that, and they arrested him for giving him the wrong name.
No.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, this kid was trafficked. It just goes to show you how little people do know about that. And they're like, you're a guy. How did you get trafficked? Oh
Yeah.
no. He even had a police officer say to him, "What are you complaining about?"
Wow.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some of the toughest things to crack.
Yeah.
Those, they call them hostros, and it's like a whole long line of, men lining up to you know, get their turn.
Yeah.
You know, Someone
It,
needs to go down with a big camera crew and
yeah.
go, "Yes, I'd like to interview you. Would you like to say hi to your wife? Because we'd like to,
I would do it. I would do
yeah,
it.
we'd like to send that over to your wife."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would totally do that. Tony
Great.
Robbins actually did a movie, Sound of Freedom. It's about, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh
It's
yeah.
all about trafficking and such like that.
Yeah, I watched that movie.
Oh, did
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, I did see it. It was good. I'm a little more I
Yeah.
like a little more documentary style
Yeah.
kind of stuff, but it's a very
Yeah.
important message and shows you
Yeah. Yeah.
how easy it is to snatch them, keep them, groom them, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, like if somebody is found, they're probably so, addicted to the drugs that, they were put on for so long that they're going to be so addicted that of course they're going to want to be a part of that. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
very well might not even know anything because they're so out of it. So it can get really, really hard to deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. It's
Yeah.
very, very tough. And
Yeah.
then, you're trying to find someone that isn't
Yeah.
going by their real name. Their hair has probably been dyed or cut or a wig on or whatever. You're not going to see them during daylight hours. You're going to see them at nighttime hours. And,
Yeah.
there's a lot of nuances that go with it, and they are not going to be in the same area. They stay in the same area for about 5 days and they're gone. So by the time you even get a heads up of where they are, they're gone by the time you're even in the car.
Because I've heard that like with a criminal, like even like when I was used to work at the law firm once upon a time ago, a criminal, it's so easy for them to like really look at someone and know within 7 seconds if they're going to be able to coerce that person off the street or wherever they are,
Right.
just by how they're walking. If they're like, dragging their feet, if they're not moving their arms, if they're, and within 7 seconds
Yeah.
that person is going to be able to know I'm going to be able to grab that person no matter who they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
narcissistic people
Yeah.
and predators do
Yeah.
exactly that thing. They're looking for the broken. They're looking for the displaced. They're looking for the ones that don't exactly fit in or are a little bit different, or they're looking for that. That's what they're looking for, because they're going to validate all of that stuff that you believe about yourself. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not like all the others. They're going to validate all that stuff as part of the grooming process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So of all, let's say, like crime bobs, like mobs, crime bosses and such like that, if you had an opportunity to interview one of them who had passed on or who is currently still here, who would it be?
Oh my gosh.
I know,
There's
right?
there's a few of them, but um so I did a little TikTok on this guy named Ken Ito.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, he was what an interesting character. So, excuse me, he made his way up through the mob, and he was a Japanese American during the 40s, 30s and the 40s, and that was just unheard of. But he was a numbers guy, and he hailed out of, I think it was Stockton, California, and made his way up. He was even interned in one of the Japanese internment camps, then made his way back to Chicago, and he ran the numbers game out of Chicago. And ultimately he turned state's evidence, you know, and state's witness, and they put him in the witness protection program, and he was kind of like the typical guy and ended up with a lawn down in Florida, just living the high life. But he ended up dying, I think it was like either the late 80s or early 90s. But what an interesting character. Never killed anybody, just he ran all of the Asian numbers games, all of them.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many interesting people out there, as I call
Oh
it,
yeah,
all walks of life, all walks of life.
definitely.
So now you also coordinate with Baby Lisa.
Yeah.
So with can you explain to everybody what you're doing with Baby Lisa, who Baby Lisa is for people that are not familiar with her? I just call her
So
Baby Lisa. Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of people do, and she calls
Yeah.
herself that too. I'm the baby. So baby Lisa Chapman is that's a dog's daughter, and she is actually just such a brilliant soul. She really is. Like it was amazing to watch her dad work, and because he just could think like 10 steps ahead. No, they're going to do this, and no, they're going to do that, and this is what they'll do. And it was kind of interesting to watch him and Beth kind of rival each other, but and then they'd lay bets on who would win. It's crazy stuff. But Lisa is very much, she's all her dad. And so when I do interviews with her, like her and I worked on a couple of cold cases together, and a few of them out of California. And boy, she just fire all these questions at them, and that's how fast her brain works. And yeah, and so and her and I continue to do that. She, has worked on some right in Hawaii, a couple right on the island of Oahu. She's on Oahu, and just some very disturbing, upsetting cases with small children. And trafficking is a big thing in Hawaii. It's very easy to hide. It's just like hiding in California. It's very easy. Got 40 million people in the state. Your
Yeah.
chances of you being seen are very slim.
Yeah. And it's not like you have to worry about it's -30 out in the winter, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And so her and I work on a few of those, and she's just an interesting soul. She can't be more than 99 pounds and 5'1", and you know, she won't be afraid to say anything, and I love her. I just adore her a lot, and she's not had it easy at all.
Yeah. No, and I mean, like, of all training, to be trained by dog, the bounty hunter,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
just a walking book of knowledge with all of that.
Definitely. Yeah, and she worked with her brothers, and she worked
Yeah.
with Beth. So, she was the culmination of all of that experience. I mean, you've easily got 100 years of experience sitting in the car when you go out on a bounty. So, yeah, she was, and I'll tell you, Beth was good at dog is hard to hide.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
hide that guy. But
Yeah.
Beth would do these pretexting things that were just hilarious. I mean, she would, throw on the British accent, or she'd throw on the Southern accent. You never knew what was going to come out of the front seat. It was hilarious. And they'd fall for it. And because she was very genuine. And we caught a girl out of I think we were in Alabama. It was one of the first ones we got in Alabama. And she had like 5 or 6 warrants, and they were just small, little tiny warrants. But Beth got on the phone, and she talked in a Southern accent, and, because we were like all in Alabama. And she says, I've got this, this free, it was like a walker or something for a baby. I'd like to be able to give it away. And so, yeah, so Beth called herself Shelly, and Shelly was Beth's best friend when she was growing up in junior high and high school, like grade school. And so we meet up with the girl. Yeah, well, Shelly didn't walk to the door. Beth walked to the door. Cuff, and you're gone. It's funny.
Wow. I know, because I saw a few episodes where they had baby Lisa go to the door, they put a
Yeah.
wig on her,
Yep. Yep.
and if somebody saw this kind of smaller, petite girl coming to the door for whatever reason, they're going to answer the door. They're
Oh
going to be
yeah.
like, who is
Oh
this?
yeah.
Yeah. So
For
it's
sure,
a good,
she's perfect bait.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because I can't remember, it was one show, a dog wanted, baby Lisa to go do something. And she's like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah, sometimes they're
Yeah.
unnerving,
Yeah. Yeah.
Beth used to say, they,
Yeah.
the criminals don't work 9 to 5. We have to go, we
Yeah.
have to go to work after 5. And so, you're in a sketchy part of town, and you're,
Yeah.
climbing up to the 13th floor. Yeah, it gets kind of odd.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. And,
Uh,
I want to say I'm so very sorry to hear about the passing of David.
Thank you.
As soon as I heard that, like,
Yeah.
my heart went out to you and your entire family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sudden passing, it's very
Thank you.
difficult. Like, how are you handling that now?
It's really, it still goes day by day. I mean, it will be a year. He passed November 30th of last year, and he had just turned 50.
Wow.
Just it turned 50 on the 2nd of November. And my girls took it extremely hard.
Yeah.
And both, he was in their life 30 years, just like mine. And that's hard. And he loved these girls. He loved them a lot. and the three grandkids, it's hard. It was hard to tell them that it was hard. I told the grandchildren, and with my daughter and her husband, and now we know 3 weeks ago her husband was killed. So it's just life is.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, that's the thing. You never know. I mean, even when I used to work at the hospice, like on call, you don't know what to expect from one second to the next. Even when you can clearly see somebody is not well,
yeah,
you could leave that room in a second and they could be gone. And
yeah.
life is so fragile, and it
Oh
doesn't
God,
matter who it is or what age somebody's at. I always say that it's really important to hold love for that person. And if there's something you really, really want to share with them or talk to them about, say it now,
yeah,
because you don't know when
yeah,
something could happen at any given time. Like when
yeah,
I heard that news, Rainey, I'm just like, oh, I just, that's why I messaged you right away. And I'm like, oh my God, like,
yeah. I was stunned.
oh,
And when I saw, I just had seen David just a couple of weeks, about a month before he passed, and he looked okay. He had gained some weight and all that, but
yeah.
I was just to laugh and joke with him that he came to me emaciated, and he left 100 pounds heavier. And but when I saw him in April of the same year last year, he looked awful. He looked gray, and I just kind of attributed it to just stress. It's stressful
Stress,
to go through a
stress.
divorce,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just
Everything.
stressful. And so yeah, but I knew that he had some medical issues, and and one of the really difficult things is that he did some things that exacerbated that. And all you can do is love people where they stand.
Yeah.
You just got to love them where they stand. You don't have to ride that train with them, but you can just love them where they stand, and that is what I did. It was one of the most painful things I ever went through in my whole life.
Yeah.
Hard. I mean, I love that man, and I still love him.
Yeah. I mean, like, we can divorce from somebody and separate for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And I mean, you had so many years with him. That love is always
Wow.
there.
Oh,
Even if you
certainly.
went on and married, or he went on,
Yeah.
or whatever, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, that love will always be with you. And I don't care what anybody says. Like,
Yeah.
I read into people right away. I can see nobody can bullshit me. Right. So I see it as it is. Right.
Exactly. And listen,
So
you'll have
yeah.
people that will try to diminish all that, and that's usually because they're trying to hide their bad behavior,
Yeah.
and justify their
Yeah. Yeah.
their stuff. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. I
Yeah.
was in this
Yeah.
relationship with this man for 30 years. I stood
Yeah.
there. I knew exactly what went on.
Yeah.
So you and your 5 minutes of information
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
trump 30 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now you were bounty hunting. You were with Dog and Beth and their team and family and everybody. And I know, like, your bounty hunting skills. Like, did you have to take any, like, what do you call it, like classes or whatever they call it? Because you have degrees and such like that.
Well, I,
You have
I
any
was
degrees yet?
originally licensed in California. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we did have to go through did have to go through a course, and be able to pass a test and all that. It really doesn't give you any,
Yeah.
knowledge of, how to do that. You learn that, going through and writing bail. So, we started writing bail. I think it was like 2007, 2008. And so I sat on the state of California, the board of It was called CBAA, the California Bail Agents Association. And you just meet some, everyone that's
Yeah.
in the industry. And, it really was a very, a lot of people will help you. And so that was originally how I met Dog and Beth, is that, they came to speak at
Yeah.
one of the conventions, and, her and I just kind of famously hit it off. And then we were just kind of connected after that. But, I didn't like, I didn't necessarily like the confrontation of all of it.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was great at it. Dog was great at it. David was great at it. Leland was good at it. He wouldn't do confrontation so much as he would gain their respect. And he would say, I'm respecting you. I want you to respect me. And, so, he rarely, you didn't see him climb up in anyone's face, very often. But, Beth, she was all, he could have made her into a hood ornament. She'd have loved that, She'd come in guns blazing. But I always like kind of talking them in, because it's a really personal kind of thing. So, so what I would do is I did a lot of the background on them, who they are, who they're connected to, who's talking to who. And believe it or not, I found two of them while they were live tweeting. And I was able to pinpoint exactly where they were, and then a couple little things that they said, but that they tweeted out that gave me clues to exactly where they were, and nailed them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes people, they don't think, they just do this and this and that, and they don't believe they'll ever get caught.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. The jails are filled with the ones that don't think.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Do you see dog much at all?
I was down, I was invited to his birthday party, which was great, in February. And yeah, we talk at least once a week. We usually
Yeah.
just kind of catch up with each other. He tells me, kind of what's going on. There's a couple of things that we're working on together. So, but yeah, he's doing really good.
Yeah.
And, there were moments that I really didn't think my friend was going to make it. And, he really loved her.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
loved her. And he did everything he was supposed to do. And it was until death do us part. And he did that. And, I thought that, you know, uh, some of the hardest tears I heard came from him.
Yeah.
And, I'm just grateful that he is thriving, and I'm grateful that he's with Francie, and, and he's living the remainder of his life.
Yeah.
I'm
You
happy
know,
for him.
because things happen for a reason. And I mean, I can personally see right through it that he was beyond devastated, and even though he's a real strong warrior, as I call it, warrior strength, it's those warriors that, you know, people are like, oh, he'll handle it, when no, they can't handle it. So even whenever he met Francine, I believe that was fate that brought them together, because if he didn't have someone, especially of the faith, like God faith, and keeping each other grounded, and especially spiritually, that could have went the opposite direction, because as we're going through a transformation, it goes either or,
Oh
right?
yeah.
A
Oh yeah.
tragedy can send somebody off in the wrong direction, or it can open up doors for new beginnings, where we're like, you know what, God has sent someone to me, we're connected somehow, we're in each other's lives for a reason, and it's not like he went looking or whatever like that.
No,
So
he actually
yeah.
didn't. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. I
Yeah.
think it's a process. I think when we have someone in our life
Yeah.
that takes up that much space,
Yeah.
and like David took up a lot of space for me, and Beth took up a lot of space for Dog. And when you don't have that anymore, it's very
Yeah.
quiet. And I think that they had been around each other for such a long time, a couple decades. And when those voices are silent, it takes a minute to get your footing. And I just wanted to protect him. I didn't want him talking to anybody. I didn't want
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
messaging anyone. I didn't want anyone to message him. I just wanted just like quiet. We just need quiet for just a minute. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, he was able to he was able to regain his footing. And he
Yeah.
like you bring up warrior, and a man like him, who does he go to?
Yes, exactly. That's how
Who,
I see it. That's why I'm like, I see it how I see it.
yeah, who does
Yeah.
he go to?
Yeah, exactly. And what a really nice, beautiful balance between them,
Yeah,
right? You know,
yeah.
they can help each other, ground each other, and support each other,
Well,
you
plus they
know?
had the same experience. She lost her husband 6 months
Yes,
before Beth died,
yes,
and here they are right in Colorado. She was in her husband did a work on the property. She didn't know anything about dog. That was just, and so when dog called to get service on the property because, her husband worked there, she told dog that, her husband perished 6 months before.
yeah,
And so that was just like, wow. So, call it fate, call it whatever you
yeah,
want.
yeah,
They certainly look happy and uh
yeah,
can't argue that.
yeah. It's like that law of attraction, you know? So sometimes, all of a sudden, boom, somebody appears out of nowhere and you're like, wow, like,
Yeah.
we're going through the same thing or similar things and we can relate to each other. That's a blessing and that's a gift as far as I can see it, because there's so many people on this planet that have nobody to talk to, regardless of what they're going through. I mean, I always help everybody else myself, right? And then people are like, well, who do you talk to? And I'm like, to the spirit world or to my dog, right? So you just sometimes you handle things a lot differently and such. Like even you, Rainey, I mean, like you've been through a lot. Like you have been through a lot. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you on here, because then I'm like, this is no, 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 nobody's gonna say that about Rainey. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So no, the truth shall prevail. It always comes out and such like that. Do you miss like bounty hunting, um, like on the show and such like that?
No, not
No.
at all. No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
I think it was such a beautiful chapter, and I
Yeah.
mean, it was magic. It really was magic. I
Yeah.
just talked to Kaleo yesterday,
Yeah.
and it was really magic. And but I'm old enough to know that those chapters they're beautiful chapters,
Yeah.
and they close,
Yeah.
and then you start another chapter. And it's always funny. I witnessed this a lot with Dog and Beth, but some of the biggest shit talkers were the ones first in line to get their autograph.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
nothing that you'll ever get away from. And trust and believe, uh, people don't know me like they think they know me.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So whenever you hear bad press, as I call it, I just say bad
Yeah.
press. Bottom line, um, how does like how do you handle that? Because anybody who's in the media, of course, you know, God only knows what's going to be out there, bottom line, right? How do you handle that if you all of a sudden see something or hear something wherever?
Well, it used to really bother me. And I was not ever really the target of it, but I watched it happen to Beth a lot. And even after all of, the 12 years on television, it still just tore her up.
Yeah.
And I would grab her phone and go, give that damn thing to me and stop reading. Just
Yeah.
stop. Don't read
Yeah.
it. Don't
Yeah.
read any of it. Just stop it. And, it's easy to think that, you're the one that's being targeted. They talk shit about everybody,
Yeah.
including their mother, including themselves, including their spouses. So their words are meaningless to me. They're
Yeah.
meaningless unless if someone with the chutzpah will come to me and ask me and stand for an answer.
Yeah.
And those that are too intimidated will just talk about you. And so, it bothered me a lot, especially when Beth had died. There were a lot of things that I read, and I always
Yeah.
felt
Yeah.
the urge to kind of correct it.
Yeah.
And, even when I went through, my separation and ultimate divorce and
Yeah.
death of
Yeah.
my husband, lots of things were said, and these people don't know me. They
Yeah,
think they do, but they don't. They heard this and a piece of that, and it's like, y'all just keep going on.
yeah.
Just
No,
have your
exactly.
clue.
Exactly. Right. It's so easy to say whatever, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever,
And
right?
it's nothing that I'll ever
Yeah,
control. It's
yeah,
nothing that you'll ever control. And
yeah,
I'm not here to please any of them.
yeah.
If you find it disappointing, I don't know what to tell you. You're disappointing yourself. I'm not disappointing you. So yeah.
If you could talk to Beth, like if she appeared all of a sudden in front of you, and if you had anything really to say to her, what would you say?
Uh I had remorse over why her and not me. Not
Oh,
that it was, me, but like I was like 8 years older than her. So why her and not me? Like her life was very large and had lots of moving parts and lots of pieces to it. And so, I had a certain amount of remorse for that. And I felt uh really almost kind of responsible to kind of keep everything together. And for a time, I was responsible for that. And we see how all of that kind of turned out. When I started saying no, when I started saying no to things, is when things started to change, and that itself will give you uh, big clues to people, to insight on people. But if she were here, I would probably just, I probably, I used to kiss her on the cheek every time I saw her. And, she'd kiss me on the cheek every time I'd leave. And I miss that. I miss those giggles. I miss her half sentences because I knew what she was going to say. And I miss those kind of crazy things that she did. Uh on the 29th of next month will be 5 years. Will be her fifth. It'll be her fifth heavenly birthday.
and you do a toast.
I
You
do.
you do a toast.
Yeah, I do a toast. Yeah, there was a group of uh insignificance that try to get me to stop talking about her. I'll never do that. Y'all don't really know me at all. I'll talk about my friend any damn time I want to. 365 days a year, forever. Imagine that. So settle in. Settle in.
Yeah, because you guys were really close. Like you
Yeah, we
guys
were
were really
close.
close. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were.
Shared a
She
lot
would
of time
call
with
me.
each other.
Yeah, and she would call me when, someone needed a jump start over at her house. So I'd call and go, get your mother an egg. Go make her an egg. You know.
Wow. Do you have any regrets about anything? Like
My only
biggest regret?
regrets are that I wish that I was probably not as you have to go through this detachment
Mhm.
phase because otherwise you just feel like you're going to melt into a puddle and you constantly. So I cried a lot out of her sight. And when I was with her, um, I would be, very stoic and no, this is what we're going to do. And don't worry about that. I'll take care. And that gave her like a lot of safety. But I think that if I were to do it a little bit differently, I would probably make myself probably a little more vulnerable to her.
Mhm. But we don't know because sometimes, you know, certain people that were around, when you're around more people that are more strength and such like that, sometimes we want to hold that strength for them. I mean, I like being around people who are really strong. It's just I have a strong personality, but it's people that have that strong personality is where I find my anchor.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's interesting that you said that because I,
yeah,
I believe that too, because when something was said, she'd look at me to see what my
yeah,
expression was.
yeah,
And then if I just, didn't have any expression, she'd think it was okay,
yeah,
And so that's what I
yeah,
mean is like she did get a lot of safety
yeah.
from them. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I find you can balance yourself a lot better. I mean, like even there's a friend of mine, she's a crown prosecutor. I'm not going to go into details. But if I have something that I'm like, okay, how am I gonna or I just need somebody that has intelligent advice, right? I'll send her a message and I'm like, yes, that's exactly
Yeah.
right. Rather than doing things on a different way, sometimes we just need those, like, yeah, that's right. Well, I wouldn't have thought of that. Or yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So how do you stay grounded? Like, how do you stay grounded yourself? Like
Well,
if you're stressed or dealing
I
with stuff, right?
since I've been here, my stress has reduced,
Yes.
tremendous amount. That's one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And then, not, I really just fill my day with doing things I want to do. And, I have a business that I do that, keeps me, keeps mama in new shoes. And I do that, and then I'm a private investigator, so I do that, and then I do the podcast. So I really just fill my time with things that I want to do, where before it was so out of balance. I had three businesses and I traveled back and forth to Hawaii, and then I had a lot of responsibilities. So I don't have that now. I have me and a couple of dogs. It's
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. And I always say when you follow what you're passionate about, new
Yeah.
doors are going to open and you find your soul's purpose and destiny and so on.
And you know what I did a couple of years ago? I just let things be.
Yeah.
I let people say what they wanted to say, feel how they wanted to feel. I'm just not about changing your mind at all now. I don't care. You live with the misery that you create, and you live with the happiness that you create. And I'm going to love you right where you stand.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the best thing to do. I mean, even if there's people that, we all get betrayed and hurt and whatever from other
Yeah.
people. I mean, whenever I let them go, I always wish them best. Right.
Yeah.
And, one of the hardest things I find, like other people, I'm sure, is especially when somebody's really hurt you or betrayed you, it's really hard is to forgive them. And you don't have to forgive them to their face or send them a letter. It's like whenever you forgive them within yourself, it's like, you know what, I forgive you. And the only reason I'm doing that is I'm not saying that I agree with you. However, I forgive you only so I can move on and find my peace within. And sometimes we have to say that over and over and over 100 million times. And
Yeah.
then when it's like, you know what, I'm not feeling that heavy weight on my shoulders anymore. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go. I'm forgiving them so I can move on. You'll feel it. And whatever
I think
happens to them is their karma anyways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And I think that I think it's an individual process. Like I'm not Jesus, so I'm not forgiving you. I'm not.
Yeah.
Betrayal is
Yeah.
something super, super large to me.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to carry it around every day. I really don't care. But it is it will remain there, and you know what you did, and I know what you did. And
Yes.
that will stay right there. So for me, I don't have to forgive in order to move on. It's very easy for me to move on. I just shut the door and then nail that bitch shut. Yeah,
Shut the front door.
exactly.
Have a cocktail.
Exactly.
So now what do you want people to remember you for?
Oh
Like,
my
so
God.
let's say like you pass on tomorrow, for instance, or whenever, right? What do you want to be remembered for?
I'd want them to be, I'd want them to remember me was, that I was kind to them and listened to them. And I think that's the majority of what you'll get. And the ones
Yeah.
that I wasn't kind to, oh, trust and believe they earned that. They earned that. And so it just depends on which, my response will be directly correlated to how you and what you did to me. So, but I think the majority is that, just loving people where they stood, drying their tears, giving them hugs, and giving them just sometimes just a 3-word sentence changes their day. And what a beautiful thing to give to somebody. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah. Yeah. What? drew you into your work? Like the crime and the bounty
Oh,
hunting and
yeah, probably the
yeah,
injustice of all of it.
yeah,
I think that it's easy, especially early on in bail. In California, there was a thing that was called stacking charges, where it wouldn't be one domestic violence charge; it would be four. And because you're through four frying pans, and then it would be, burying somebody behind all of those charges. God, we bailed out more females than males on that, and some were really young. They're like 20, 21 years old, 22 years old. What do they know with that? They don't know anything.
yeah,
So what are we doing with all that? So and a lot of people didn't have made terrible choices. And some people were caught by the short hairs of whatever it may be. So
yeah.
I would always like to kind of I was always an underdog fighter, always.
Yeah. Is there anybody like that really inspires you? Like you're like,
Oh,
wow, that person, whoever they are, they really, really inspire me.
I am inspired by lots of people. You're one of them. I
Oh, Rainy,
I
thank
get
you.
inspired by, people's beauty. And I don't mean physical stuff. I
Yeah,
mean, how they behave. Let me tell you, how you behave. You can take the most stunningly gorgeous person, and if they behave badly, all of that is irrelevant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it works in reverse too.
yeah,
And I get inspired every single day just by um, you know, random acts of kindness and sweet things that people will say to each other, just random strangers, or random holding a door open. You know what I mean? Paying for the person's coffee behind you in the line of Starbucks, that kind of stuff. That's what life is about, is that, hey, I see you. Hope you
yeah,
enjoy your yeah,
yeah. Kindness. I
yeah.
remember many, many, many years ago, when I was actually at the law firm and such, a friend of mine, she was a single mom with 5 kids,
Wow.
and she was struggling. And I had moved, and I moved in beside her, the house next to her on purpose. So it was Christmas time. And, and I'm like, I'm making good money, right? So I went out and I bought all of her kids' gifts
Oh,
and a Christmas tree. And I would leave for work early normally in the morning, but I thought I'm getting up extra early. So I got up extra early and I put the Christmas tree on her doorstep and the presents, and I rang the doorbell and knocked, and I took off really fast.
I love that.
Yeah. And she never knew. She phoned me at work and she goes, Jeni. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I never admitted it. I said, well, maybe it was Santa Claus.
Yeah,
It's
who knows?
Christmas.
I
Never
know.
told her it was me.
But she knew it was
Yeah.
you. And
Yeah.
that's I love
Yeah.
those. I love
Yeah.
those when, it used to be important for me to be able to take credit for this or credit for
Yeah.
that. And now it's just like it's not important. It's just the fact that it gets done. I love that.
Wow. Wow.
That's your soul.
Yeah.
That's your soul talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, you can feel it. You can really, really feel it whenever you truly, truly help somebody. And that's why I do my work. Like even if I had billions of dollars, which believe me, I don't, I would still be doing my work. I would still be doing my work because there's so many people out there that they have nobody to talk to, and um, to give them understanding of why these things are happening and how to work through it, and
Yeah.
all of that. I would still be doing it. I wouldn't be charging people, of course, right? I'd be expanding and helping more people than anything.
Oh, I
So
think that I think your work is very important, and I think that you should charge for it. And
I
I don't
do.
care yeah,
I
and I don't care if you're a billionaire or not. You should always
Yeah,
charge,
yeah,
and
yeah,
for whatever reason, people seem to value things,
yeah,
more
yeah,
when they, you know. So I love that, and yes, I think there has to be more people that just extend a hand. Just
yeah,
extend a hand. You don't really even have to do anything. Just stand there. That's all you
yes,
got to. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like surprising people. It's like with Oprah whenever everybody has cars.
Everyone
I
gets a car.
I would do that. I would totally do that. I
I
would
know.
totally do that. And I would
I go,
stand
everyone
behind
gets
the
a
seats.
puppy.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So we're kind of winding up here to the end. And um if David appeared to you right now, what would you say to him?
I'd probably tell him, I always loved you. I'll always love you.
Yeah.
And you ever do that again in another lifetime, and it's over, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, you are old souls, that's for sure. Like you are very connected. As I said, I felt him around very strongly, always will be. Love is love. Love's eternal. No matter
Yeah.
how people move on, remarry or whatever happens, death, anything. When there is love, it's eternal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go away. We hold it
Yeah.
forever. Because sometimes we know we have to let somebody go, even when they're still with us. It's like I have to let this person go because I love them and I know that we're not connecting, or we don't get each other anymore, or maybe my soul contract is up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
felt, that was like, I said to you earlier, that was like one of the hardest decisions I ever made,
Yes.
was
Yeah.
that. But, and then if I could take all the emotion out of it and just pan back, there were some other things that he needed to be able to accomplish that didn't have really anything to do with me. So, even though that didn't last for very long, I'll see him again. I know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not easy, but love is love. It's there. So do you have any last words again for anything you want to say, or
Just that, we live in an interesting time right now. And we live in an interesting time where we have allowed electronics to dictate how we treat each other.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether someone is a stranger or familiar to you, kindness should always be the first step to everything. And you will get a very, very blessed life if you lead your life in that manner.
Yeah. Yeah. And compassion.
Yeah.
You have to show yourself compassion. You have to show yourself love.
Yeah.
That's not
And
always easy. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And, being able to be vulnerable and real. And yes, bad things happen and good things happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because we all have our good cycles and our bad cycles,
I agree.
you know, and setting boundaries is so important. Like I'm sure you get hundreds and hundreds of messages a day. I get a lot of messages a day. And there's certain boundaries we have to set with certain things. And it's not
Definitely.
saying anything rude. It's reality and
Right.
balancing things as best as we can and such like that. So,
Exactly.
and I'm so grateful, Brady, that you took the time. I know you're busy and such, and I'm always grateful to chat with you. And I
My,
think we should do another show and have cocktails and
let's
you,
do it.
and even have a live show coming on.
We totally could do that too. Maybe,
Yes,
and
yes.
you know what? Maybe we should do that for the birthday, for Beth's birthday. See if you
Oh,
can't send some messages.
oh, okay, okay. Reminds me of the date. Like, what
29th
date is it?
of October.
The 9th of October?
What, 29th?
29th October, 29th October.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. I'm on it.
perfect.
I'm on it. So,
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. It's
oh,
always such a pleasure when I see you pop up on any of my feeds. So I have a lot of gratitude for you.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm always grateful. Always grateful. I was really excited, really happy, you know. And we'll be on here again, you guys. So now, in order for you to see the episodes, you have to subscribe to my channel. I'm on a lot of different platforms. For goodness sakes, I'm not going to give them all. Just Google my name, Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. And Rainy, Rainy, look up at Rainy. She's got a lot. She's got a lot. So I'm your host, Jeni Ji Cousins. This is Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. And again, Rainy, lots of love your way. Thank you so much.
Thank you.